I have been joined by Ebenezer Afanye Dadzie, who's head of business news here at Citi FM and Citi TV. Good morning, Ebenezer.
Good morning, Dziffa.
How are you?
Great.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
I also have with me Elvis Darko, who's the editor of The Finder. Good morning, Elvis.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. Yourself?
I'm good. How was your weekend?
Not bad.
Did you make it to the Christmas meeting Ghana Fair?
And I couldn't.
Come on. How could you not? Huh?
Many engagements on the same day.
You missed out.
Yeah, I actually followed on social media, and I realized a lot really has happened at the place, and it's a very good initiative.
Thank you.
We need to get a Ghana going, and anything that gets Ghana going, we should all be behind it and push it.
Thank you.
That's the only way we can make some progress as a country.
Thank you. We'll take a look now at our first story. I am going to read from citynewsroom.com, and I'm going to try and read the entire story so that you can appreciate why it's problematic that we have 96 ambulances in the country, yet they are not out on our streets yet. And I'll tie it into the president's response to the journalist who asked the question about our ambulances not being out. And then we'll hear from our two guests. So it says here on Citi Newsroom, woman delivers in tricycle due to lack of ambulance. The lack of an ambulance in the Wa district of the Upper West region has compelled a 21-year-old woman at Palahi to be delivered of her baby in a tricycle. Gladys Lewa was put to labor last Friday at the community but had to be transported on a tricycle upon referral to the Busa Health Center in the Wa municipality, which is about 20 kilometers away because there is no single ambulance in the Wa district area. So we go on to hear from her. She says, cars don't come to our village because of the bad nature of the road. And there is no ambulance too. So the only means to carry me was the tricycle. Imagine traveling with pain in a deplorable road. We get to a point and the child was coming. It was only me and my rival who was accompanying me. So she helped and the child came out. She goes on to talk about how let me just continue. According to her, even though she managed to endure the pains of childbirth through the bumpy road in the tricycle, she gave up on her survival because her placenta could not come out after delivering in the middle of the bush. The tricycle driver, however, managed to get her to the Busa Health Center, but before they got there, the 21-year-old who was experiencing her first childbirth had gone into coma and had to be referred again to the Upper West Regional Hospital in the same tricycle because of lack of an ambulance in the regional facility. Gadislawa finally got to the regional hospital with a 4.6 HB as a result of overbleeding, but was saved. Faustina Kondoma described the incident as her worst experience in life and called on government to find a lasting solution to the no ambulance syndrome in the region. I'm going to quote her. She says, I don't pray for any woman to go through what we went through. It is us today. Who is next tomorrow? If we don't vote, the government must do something about it. If the road were to be good, we could get a car to transport her. The Upper West region currently has less than 3 functioning ambulances serving the over 800,000 residents in that area. So I'm telling you this story of this 21-year-old woman experiencing childbirth for the first time and having to do so in a bush on a tricycle on a terrible road in the 21st century Ghana, so that we can get a context to the president's response when journalists asked him what we are doing about ambulances in this nation. He says, and I quote the president, the Minister for Special Development Initiatives, who has been responsible for bringing them, told me about a month, 6 weeks ago, that some of the ambulances were in. Should she distribute them? And I said, no, she shouldn't. She should wait till they all come in. So one day, we can distribute all at the same time to all 275 constituencies, I saw myself getting into tremendous amounts of issues if I started distributing some and others didn't get it. So that was the president's response to 96 ambulances being in this country and us having to wait till we can distribute 275 to the constituencies. So I'll start with you, Ebenezer, on this story of ambulances and our healthcare system in general in the country.
Dziffa, it's a serious issue, but I think that it's just one part of our whole attitude towards the value of life in this country, basically. I mean, the whole health system itself has a problem. Because, I mean, the emergency care itself is just one arm of the healthcare system. So you say emergency care has three components. That's care in the community, care during transportation, which is related to the question of access, and care on arrival at the health facility. The truth is that in this country, you can even get an ambulance that maybe will take you to the hospital. When you get it, there will be no bed. So the connection is huge. But we are not so serious with it. Because for me, for instance, growing up, I've on many occasions seen people put in a public transport, either in a taxi, to the hospital. I have barely seen ambulances when I was growing up in my village at Bremen Beni to Esikuma. Esikuma is even bigger because it has a district hospital. But you barely see an ambulance. A country where you easily find hearse. I think there are even more hearses than there are ambulances in this country. Cars carrying dead bodies and blowing horn. There are many of them than we have ambulances in this country. Because if you look, in 2018, May, Citi FM did an infographic. We did an analysis on the ambulance situation in Ghana. And we came to a conclusion that, as at that time, the 29 million Ghanaians were dependent on 55 functional ambulances. 55 functional ambulances for a population of 29 million. So, and we found out that about 155 of them, out of the 155, 100 had broken down. So most of the ambulance service stations, they don't have ambulance, they are just there. So we've known about this situation. I mean, it's not new. It's always been like that. But I think that generally the bigger issue is that we've not... I was reading a paper written by Jonad Razaki and Arthur Kellerman. It's a 2002 paper on emergency healthcare in Africa. And it's about developing countries and emergency healthcare. In fact, the paper concluded that healthcare in developing countries has not traditionally focused on emergency care. We've not cared about it.
Why?
Well, the factors are many. Because there's a connection to many things. Your roads have to be in good shape. I mean, imagine even an ambulance moving on a bad road, really. You won't get anywhere because that in itself affects the quality of health you get. So, but I think that is basically, we don't just value so much of lives here. Because, and when you say it, people think it's so simple, but there's a reason why the political class will easily want to fly out, even sometimes for the basic emergency or basic healthcare services. They have built a health system they don't trust. Yeah. And they know our health system is not what it's supposed to be. So and for me, as for the president's comments, it makes me so angry. And
why?
I've controlled myself not to comment on it.
Why?
I mean, it's unfortunate that we have built a culture where we think every elderly person speaks sense or they are knowledgeable. In fact, what the president said, like, I don't know how best to describe it. If I want to be very real, I may be offensive.
But we're in a country where every step the finance minister came out to read the budget, and people were offended that their region was not mentioned, even though it was in the budget. So we're in a country where people criticize you for every single thing. You go distribute these ambulances, now someone will say, you didn't give me some because I'm from this place. You see, then how do you respond to that?
I understand how our politics play. But you see, it's the duty of leaders to change the status quo.
Okay.
The status quo will not change from you and I. It will change from the top. And it's the one who leads who has to take that decision. And this is the man who says he doesn't care if he loses election because he takes certain decisions. What is the difference in this one? And this is about health. And you are waiting for the number of ambulances for you to go and do fanfare with it. The truth is that in this country, we focus more on fanfares than the substance of things. We're in this country that this government that came, they had a whole ceremony to reintroduce allowances for trainee nurses. Dziffa, who does that? You promise that you reintroduce an allowance that somebody scrapped. So you have to even do a whole ceremony. They did it somewhere in one of those regions. Yeah. They went there, did the whole ceremony just to introduce the allowance again. So for me, and I can tell you that as we speak, even that allowance, they are struggling to pay.
Wow.
Yet you spent money and time and resources to go and do a fanfare to announce the introduction. I mean, really, the politics we do in this country has to change, and the president has to do better. For me, I mean, I've been disappointed in the president on so many things, and this one was it for me. Okay. I couldn't imagine hearing that from him. And you see, the sad part is that the politicians think that, well, okay, as for them and their cronies and their families, when push comes to shove and they need health care, they can get outside somewhere. But you see, you can't always get out. There are times the sickness will hit you and you can't even fly. And this system that you are failing to build, it will kill you. It's this same system. This is where Atamils died. He didn't die outside. This is where Emisata died. After he went for jogging, he collapsed. So this system that they are trying not to build, and they think that they can easily escape, they can go and give birth somewhere, because people are giving birth in public hospital, and they are dying every day over negligence.
Why are we not placing the value on human lives? And why are we also not holding the right people accountable for this? I mean, she talks about the bad roads. Somebody should be punished for it. Talk about lack of ambulances. Is it the fact that we just come and we talk and we feel good and then we go? And as citizens, are we doing enough to hold our leaders accountable?
Well, as to whether we are doing enough, it's difficult to tell. But I believe that gradually, for me, I think that a lot of things are massing up. And we'll get to a point where if we are not careful, the way things are going, containing things may be tough. And leadership has to set up. For us, the citizens, of course, we have seen how people are getting angry elsewhere and doing so many things just to get the results. But that also comes at a cost, so you want to be careful. But you see, if we don't buckle up, things could get really worse. And leadership has to set up. And some of us were expecting that there will be a new paradigm shift in terms of how governance will go. But really, it's been the same thing. And it's really disappointing.
Thank you. Elvis, your thoughts on the story of a 21-year-old young woman having to give birth in the bushes?
Well, let me start from the president's comment. Mm-hmm. The president's comment, they say we have what we call constructive criticisms. Okay. And we have criticisms that are cynical and have nothing to do with construction. Mm. We are becoming a country where we are having more of cynical criticisms from the people. Okay. And I think the president on this issue has fallen for cynical criticisms, which has misled him to take the decision he has taken. Anybody that will criticize you, why did you give the ambulance to A or didn't give to B, is a cynical criticism. And the president shouldn't fall for such cynical way of thinking. I believe that the government has been in power for 3 years. Yeah. They have come under a lot of cynical criticisms from people. Some are good criticism, constructive, many others cynical. And the president comments give me a feeling that the government is beginning to feel the heat of cynical criticism and begin to fall for some of them.
But is that even a good enough excuse? 55 ambulances to almost 30 million people. You get 96 and it's just
that's what I'm saying, that the president fell for cynical criticism.
What does that say about his ability as a leader?
If he fell for cynical criticism, it's not the best, because as a leader, you don't have to fall for cynical criticisms. You must be a listening president, yes. But listening president, listening to constructive criticism and suggestions, not listening to foolishness. So for me, the skills that people may criticize him that he gave to this and didn't give to this, for me, it's a cynical criticism, and he should have ignored it and actually go ahead to distribute the ambulances at the time that the sector minister had said that everything is ready, so I want to distribute. He should have given the go-ahead for it to be distributed. For me, that would have been my position, because to say that because some people who, for political reasons, not for common sense reasons, will criticize you that you give to this because you are doing favoritism. And based on that, as a leader, as the president of the line, decided to wait till all of them come. It doesn't make sense to me.
What does it say about the value the president places on human life in this country?
Politicians,
people are dying because of ambulances and women are giving birth.
Politicians look at things from different angles.
And they are one of us.
Yes, but you see, because there is going to be an election, there's going to be a vote, there's going to be something at stake. So politicians, when they are looking at issues, they will look at everything, but at the end of the day, they want to look at the political capital in what they are going to do. Okay. And that sometimes bless their judgment on certain issues. And for me, that is what we must avoid. Let's not also create the impression that if the 96 ambulances were distributed, somebody will not give birth in the bush. That is also completely an ignorant way of thinking. Unless you don't know Ghana. I have grown in the village. I went to school, I had to JSS, I completed JSS in the village before I was lucky to come to Ashama Secondary School. So I have seen things. And I still go to the village every now and then. And I see things. And thankfully, because of my job, I've traveled Ghana. And I've been to places. And exactly as the story is saying, if you listen to the description, that cars even hardly come to the community because the roads to the community are in terrible shape. Even if you have ambulance, okay, this lady will still have given birth on the way before they get to the hospital. Why? Because the ambulance is only manned by paramedics who are just supposed to keep you in a certain condition to get the proper professionals to take care of you. So with the condition of the road that they describe, even with an ambulance on the road, this lady will still have gone through those pains. The bumpy road will still be there. Okay? In President Atamoso's time, when he came to power, we virtually don't have any ambulance in the system under President Mos. So he took the decision to buy an ambulance for almost every major hospital in Ghana. By WHO standards, an ambulance should be on the road for 5 years. And after that, you need to replace them. That is WHO standards. We are a third world country. We can't apply WHO standards in everything. Ambulances that were bought under President Nelson's time, within 5 years, almost all the ambulances have broken down. Why? Because where we send this ambulance, the roads are in such a terrible shape that if they are running around, definitely within the shortest possible time, they will break down. And therefore, when we are shouting ambulance, we are not looking at the general conditions of other things that will make the emergency service delivery effective, and we only focus on ambulance, we will be missing the point. I have always said that when PV Obin died, if it was any serious country, that would have been the turnaround for emergency service in the country. Because if you look at PV Obin and the position he was holding in government at that time, and he had an emergency in his car in the middle of the road, it was a taxi that took him to the Lekma hospital before he died. And if we were a serious country, a serious government at that time, with the caliber of person PVOB has been in the history of Ghana's politics, that would have been a turning point for us to say enough is enough. We must do something to change the emergency system. But the moment nothing changed, I said, worse things are going to happen. So when President Mos died, there were rumors that he was put in a boot of a four-wheel drive. I wasn't surprised. When Ebenezer Afanye died, I wasn't surprised. But see, we are talking about all this. Only last week, I think they finally published the story. Ghana Health Service said that cheap zones, which we have built to provide like basic care for pregnant women this thing in the country, more than half of them, lack the basic amenities to operate. Yeah. Ghana Health Service, their own report. It said cheap zones are built in communities and they are manned by community health nurses so that basic things like delivery and all these simple things can be done. By Ghana Health Service own report, more than half of it lack the basic amenities to operate. So it means that we just put the buildings there and write cheap zones on it. But the actual things they need to be able to attend to the people don't exist. And we are sitting on these things and we think that emergency care or health care in this country will just improve automatically. My sister, it won't happen. Go to Kolebu. 2 years ago, my uncle was sick. We took him to the emergency ward. The male emergency ward in Kolebu, I wept. Even common curtains do not exist. The whole place was like... the whole place looks like some abandoned building. The beds they were sleeping on, you can see the whole bed rust. But human beings are supposed to be there for emergency care to be attended to. So you see, let's not If, as I said, if the ambulance, this is one ambulance for a constituency. There are constituencies that are 50,000 people, 40,000 people, 60,000 people. We are giving one ambulance to a constituency. Are you telling me that in a day, there will be only 1 or 2 emergencies among 50,000 people in a day?
So we're going to.
We need to
I think my next question for the two of you will be what we've gained from our democracy. If we can't even give Ghanaians their basic human right to health, quality health. But we do have to go for a quick break. Thank you so much for staying with us. This is Breakfast Daily on Citi TV. Don't forget to use the hashtag Breakfast Daily and the WhatsApp line 0550585832 for us to hear from you. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Breakfast Daily on Citi TV. Thank you so much for staying with us. Now, we want to hear from you. So if you have any questions or contributions to the conversation, let us know with the hashtag Breakfast Daily and the WhatsApp line 0550585832. I still have with me Ebenezer Afanye Dadzie, who's head of business news here at Citi TV and Citi FM, and Elvis Darko, who's the editor of The Finder. And we're discussing the state of our healthcare system in general and specifically focusing on ambulances. The president saying that he's waiting to distribute the ambulances to all 271 districts, even though we have 96 here. And before the break, I was asking Elvis what this means for our democracy and our development if we can't even guarantee basic right to life in this country.
It's not about democracy. See, it's about planning process in whatever we do.
Yeah, but that's part of our development.
Yes, that's what
if we're voting people into power to serve us, and they can't even guarantee us our right to life. What's the essence?
That's what I'm telling you. Everything you do, they say if you fail to plan, it is your plan to fail. Mm-hmm. So when we are living in a country where we don't have systematic ways of doing things, and it appears that it's only when a party comes to power and they make promises, and then it is they who decide how to fulfill those promises. It is not because as a nation we have a master plan to say that in the health sector, for instance, this is how we are going. As I said, when President Mills bought the ambulances, we knew that by WHO standards, 5 years' time, we are supposed to discard them and replace them with new ones. What was the plan at that time? No plan. We waited till 2015 when they had expired before we started making processes to where we can replace them. Then the government, for whatever reason, gave some contract. It became litigation. The few ones that came were declared not good for the purpose, and now the case had to end up in court. So from 2015 till now, even the 55 ambulances we are talking about that are on the road, by WHO standards, they are not supposed to be on the road. If we had a master plan, by the time that we are in the 4th year, we would have ordered for the procurement of the ambulances. So by the time we enter the 5th year before they will no longer be in use, the new ones would have arrived. So we need to have a country that in every sector, we have a master plan that in the next 10 years, in the next 15 years, this is how we are going. And maybe every 2-3 years, we do a master review of that plan to see whether we are on target or we are not on target. Then how do we then come back on target to be able to achieve these things? If we are able to plan this way, then we'll be making some progress. But the truth in this country is that in the 4th Republic, which I have witnessed and can testify about, you look at every sector of the country, and it appears we don't really have a proper plan that we are following for any sector at all.
So how are we developing the energy sector? How exactly are we developing the nation? Go to education sector. Go
to the key sectors. You look at the challenges there. You ask yourself, what master plan were we following for us to be here? And you can't find. And therefore, you ask yourself, our development has become haphazard. It is when somebody sits up one day and said, oh, if we do this, it will help. And then we jump onto it. It's not because we have done an assessment to say, in the next 10, 15 years, in the next 20 years, this is where this sector will be going. And therefore, our plans and everything should be focused here. This is the master plan. These are the short term, the medium term, the long term plan. How do we review it and make sure that these things are on track for us to get to where we are? Like most of our problems, even though we don't have money, most of our problem would have known that this is what it is, this is what we should have done, where do we get the money, how are we making progress? This thing would have been done. But as I just told you, the policy, for instance, for Chief's Zone was that because communities are so much scattered and getting to the district hospitals take time and this time. Let's bring in a certain type of health system that is with the people in the community and provide a basic equipment and medicine and things they need, so that for certain basic things they don't need to go to the district hospital.
Okay.
But then we are being told that more than half of them lack the basic amenities to operate. Yeah. So why did you put up a building and call it a cheap zone, which is supposed to be a health center, and the things they need to be able to save the people that don't exist? Yet we brag that we have put up a health center. So
I think that's a great.
We really have a problem.
Yeah. Thank you, Elvis. Ebenezer, last week the Private Health Facilities Association of Ghana threatened that they were going to go back to cash and carry if government didn't settle some debt owed them through the NHIS. They've since then withdrawn from their threats. They are going back to, following things. But why must we get to a point where they are even threatening that this whole NHIS thing is not working out, or going back to cash and carry? And what does this say about even the priority our leaders place on our lives? Because health is one thing that we all can't take for granted.
Dziffa, I mean, unfortunately, for all the issues, we go back around the same thing, leadership. And like what Elvis said, there's really no plan. For instance, look at the excitement and the fantasy somebody has to introduce a drone somewhere. It's fantasy. You have basic things like an ambulance, which is key for emergencies.
NHIS.
You don't even have. Like you say, my wife works in a CHIPS compound. Sometimes basic things, very basic. So there's a case that will come that they can handle, but my wife will tell me, this one, if I handle this case, this woman and the baby can die here, then she will have to transfer it to Tema General and put more pressure on Tema General, which is already choked. So it's, I really don't know, but Dziffa, the leadership we have in this country, and like he said, there's no plan. Everybody is doing what they want. At what point, who decided to introduce this drone? I can tell you that from the look of things, it was not really any advice from any technical expertise. Some politicians felt excited. Somebody threw an idea to him. Like he said, Charlie, this thing looks nice. Well, let's try it. It's beautiful. And I was telling myself, very soon, in the next 1 year, we'll do a proper analysis of the drone. And you'll be shocked to know that really nothing is happening in terms of what it is doing. Nothing is happening. Because one, there's a reason why Rwanda introduced the drone service. Go and find out. A lot of the structure of the country, we are told that there are places that are in valleys that a car can't easily even access. So then the drone. So sometimes some of the solutions are for certain specific problems in different places. They do not really apply to us. I think in Ghana, if we're able to even want to fix our road, there's nowhere in Ghana you can't easily go with a car. That you need a drone. You can't really, so my point is that you've not finished one, then you quickly jump to two, and we should praise you, we should be excited. Because it's beautiful. We want to move fast, but there should be wisdom, or there should be some sense in the way we are moving.
But talk about the National Health Insurance bit and the
private
giving government 1 week ultimatum to pay them what they're going back to the
same issue about the
carry.
plan. What was the plan really for NHIS in terms of the funding? How much we are going to get into it? We know what goes in is not that much. From the VAT is not that much. Then we also know that the claims people pay are still they are not enough. The claim is meager. So we still have problems. But even that, the politicians still have a way of dissipating the NHIS resources. If you remember somewhere last year, Adjoa Safo, the deputy majority leader, wrote to NHIS to give her money to go for a training outside. What has you, a majority leader who is supposed to be a minister for procurement, went through a process, and you want to nicodemously go and take money from NHIS, money that NHIS cannot even pay service providers? You are going to take the money to go for a personal training for yourself. For what? So, and this is the same NHIS is believed is a place where a lot of party communicators are giving monies.
Do these leaders feel a sense of responsibility to the citizenry, or are they so far removed from our realities that they can't connect
the reality is that,
what's the issue here?
Until you see, people don't get good governance merely because they elected leaders. People get good governance because they demand for it. The fact that you go and vote and come and say that doesn't mean you will get development.
You think we're not doing enough?
I think that we've not done enough. What more? But gradually, I see a certain mass, and I see a certain awareness. People are getting aware that no, we need to demand. We can't just vote and go and sleep. It doesn't work. We have to fight. The countries that are what they are, citizens rose up and make sure they got what they
Ebenezer,
deserve.
we're coming from a
and we have to get to that point. Otherwise, we're in a big mess.
We had roads, we had VRA, we had Kolebu. We built things without Ghanaians having to hold up placards and force it out of us. We have been able to do that in this country. Why is it that 62 years into independence, we are dragging our feet and not feeling any sense of responsibility to the Ghanaian? This is Ghana. We were the people telling the world the black man can fix his problems, and we're going to show the world how the black man can take care of himself. So it's not as though we've not done it before. Where did we go wrong?
I mean, it's possible at a point there's just a certain laid back. But you see, Dziffa, things just don't happen. You must let them happen. That's the point.
Is it a lack of willpower? Because this is a country where even salaries, you have to force someone to pay you what you are due. Is that the way we should go? Because you're saying, we should demand it. But these are basic necessities, right to life, health care. Is that something we should force our leaders to give us?
You are in a different part of the planet, especially in terms of the way political leadership is and how things work. So, I mean, if you're in that kind of system, you can't just relax. I mean, we have seen countries, like when I saw a lot of the uprising that started in the Northern African countries, I was shocked, some of them, because some of those countries have actually gone far in terms of development than us. Okay. Like Egypt.
And they're still not content with what they have.
They're still not content because some things are just not right. And at a point, people had to get to a certain level. We know the Tahrir Square uprising and all that. So it tells me that I think that within West Africa in particular, some way, somehow, our approach to things is a bit different. Okay. Because if you look at the West African side, if you look at Nigeria, their citizens, they complain a lot just like us. But I feel that it can get to a point that if we are not careful and leaders don't begin to realize that we are getting to dangerous points and people need to be careful. But it's like they are just not paying attention. And we could get to very dangerous time. For me, that's my fear because I don't know what else will happen.
Elvis, are our leaders becoming a bit complacent with our development?
Well, before that, let me touch on the drones. Maria, you need to follow the drones story and check it because I follow it.
You think it's...
Yes. You see, in this country, by the road statistics, only 30% of Ghanaian roads are tarred. And those tarred are mostly in the cities. Okay. So over 70% of our roads in this country, the ones that even existed, are not tarred.
Shouldn't we fix the roads?
So if you are talking about fixing the roads, you need to look for interventions that give you cheaper cost. The drone project is $12 million. We are told that the better road in Ghana that is done, a kilometer is $1 million. So if you are talking about the cost of investing in the drones and the road, it means you can do 12 kilometers of roads with the money in drones. But if you look at the intervention the drone is offering, in a country where rural communities are scattered away from each other, and we are talking about most roads in rural communities not tarred, and therefore the cost of delivering the medicine and the time it will take to save people's life, we really have to, as you said, with time, we will assess the performance of the drone project. You realize
just talked about the CHIPS compound.
Yeah.
That they don't even have basic things.
Yes.
And we're talking about drones.
And that is why the drone...
Do we need drones to send...
That is why the drone is good.
Because when the chip to a place like
yes, when the drone... The reason why the drone is good is that in the chip compound doesn't have a free-to-store anti-snake serum. And somebody is reported with snake bite. In 30 minutes or 45, the drone delivered the snake venom.
We can't plan. You mentioned planning earlier. Can't we plan ahead and make sure all these places are...
But that does not...
are well equipped.
That's the problem we have.
With the resources.
Emergency delivery does not mean that you cannot... Technology is breaching...
It also doesn't mean we have to skip steps.
No, we are not
If you're not getting the basics right...
You have a gap, and the cost it will take you to fix that gap is in billions. And you have a small investment that can also improve largely what exists. Between the two and your finances, which one do you choose? So it is not about the drone replacing the healthcare system. But the drone is offering a service that if you want to fix the problem you claim you have, the cost you need to do it. You are not finding that money in the next 10 or 20 years.
Let's move on
so let's look at every intervention, especially when the world is moving into technology. And the technology is you need to run about drone delivery.
But technology also has to be relevant to the needs of the market you're serving.
Of course.
And if they don't even have basic things like paracetamol, some places don't even have gloves.
That's what I'm telling you.
You're talking about drones.
Somebody has a snake bite and is dying. Okay, somebody has a snake bite is dying. The chip zone has no free to store even anti-snake venom. And you have to take that person maybe an hour or two before you go to the regional hospital and the person is dead. And in the same hospital, all they need is the venom. Anti-venom. And then a drone can deliver it in 15 or 20 or 30 minutes. So you see, let's begin to look at the interventions that we need to be able to do it. In Brazil now, the Amazon, they deliver everything with drones to people.
That's fine. Let's move on to the private health institutions giving government 1 week ultimatum, or they're going to go back to cash and carry.
Healthcare everywhere. The best thing in everywhere for healthcare. It's not about government taking the cost of healthcare in terms of intervention. Because healthcare is so expensive everywhere in the world. So if you have a healthcare system where people are contributing just minimal, and you think government can fund that healthcare system, you are making a mistake. But if you're also in a country where people are dipping into that same funds to fund their trips, does that even say enough about the priority they place on the sector? That is the country we live in, when the laws makers make laws and make provisions for themselves, and the people keep quiet. So what's the way forward for our development? The way forward for development. The way forward is the people must demand. And everything that is put out there, we the people must scrutinize and ask ourselves, why do this happen? How can MPs take 50,000 each year for each MP to go and do health projects in their communities from NHIS fund? And they make this for themselves because they see it as a means of fulfilling their promises they made to the people, that when you vote for me, I'll come and build your community health center for you. And they realize that they are not the development agents. It's the district assembly that should be the development agent. It is the Ghana Health Service who should be doing health projects. But he has gone to promise the people that when you vote for me, I'll do this. So when the law comes to him, they say, approve our budget. They say, no, before we approve your budget, give every MP 50,000 each year to go and undertake a health project. In the same fund, we are giving MPs another money to go and do monitoring. Monitoring, to go and monitor health projects in their constituencies. These are monies that are coming from National Health Insurance Levy. So you see, these things are happening and the people are quiet. Nobody is standing up and saying, look, this nonsense must stop. So you see, when you see, democracy, as we talk about, it's like we have handed our sovereignty to a few group of people, and we are not checking them how they are using our sovereignty on our behalf. So they make the laws to benefit themselves, and then we, the people who give them the sovereignty, we are quiet. Well, we say kebi mamin kebi, so democracy is just you talk, I talk. It is not. Democracy is about holding the people you have given your sovereignty to account, to make sure that whatever they are doing on your behalf, it is benefiting you. But Ghanaians think that once they go and cast the ballot, and they say party A has won, my candidate has won, my candidate has lost, they think that is the meaning of democracy. They don't take the next step to say, I have handed over my sovereignty to this person to take decisions on my behalf. And therefore, for every single decision they take, I must scrutinize that decision and make sure that I'm satisfied. If I'm not satisfied, I must march to that house called Parliament to tell them that they should drop this decision. But we are not doing that. So we have handed over our sovereignty to the people. They have turned around to use our sovereignty to make laws and things that benefit them. And they have left us behind. And we, the people, are quiet. Because I don't understand why an NHIS levy can be given to an MP that he should go and undertake a development. What is the Ghana Health Service doing? What is Ministry of Health doing? What is the District Assembly doing for a National Health Insurance levy to be given to MP to go and do a health project in his constituency? I don't get it. How do you give money to MP that he should go and do monitoring of health projects in his constituency? Which kind of system does this? But because it is the selfish interest of the MP to create that impression to his constituents that I promised that I will build a health center, now I'm building it, so I'm fulfilling my promise. He makes sure that he gets the money. And the people are not made to understand that the MP, the money is trying to do that. It shouldn't have been given to the MP. It should have been given to Ghana Health Service. It should be NHIS project, not an MP's project. But that is what we are doing. So we must understand that if we want to practice democracy to benefit the ordinary people, the ordinary people must take keen interest in what the elected officials are doing and make sure that whatever they are doing is in their interest. Until we get to that level, the elected officials will exploit the system for their own benefit. Thank you very much, Elvis. We'll take a look now at our final story. I'm reading from citinewsroom.com, and it says here, 2020 polls. Don't engage in violent acts for politicians. Nanado to Muslim youth. So I'm going to quote what the president said to the Muslim youth.
And then, of course, this is in the run-up to the 2020 elections. He says, Muslim youth cannot continue to be the ones who are used for violent purposes. I want to make this appeal to you. In 2020, do not allow yourselves to be used by irresponsible politicians to engage in acts of destabilization and violence. Now, my question to our two guests here is it only the Muslim youth that the president should be talking to, or the politicians who act as warlords to these young people and are manipulating them to serve their interests? Because there are points where you go into certain political parties and you see young people being used for all kinds of things. So, Dadzie, should he really be talking to the youth or his fellow politicians about this? Because we know what's going to happen next year. They are all going to be out there protecting the politician.
Do you know, in this country, one of the things that irks me is when there are laws to deal with certain offenses and we choose to advise. I get angry about that. If people are rowdy, there are laws to deal with them. You, the president, you just passed the Vigilantism and Related Offenses Act. And that's what the president, passed.
Yeah.
So when people go and misbehave, people are hired by the same politicians, including he himself, the famous old Ibidai comment man. Is it not the same politicians who do this? Sometimes these comments, when I hear them, I just laugh. I don't think it's anything serious. But the point is that there are laws. When people go about misbehaving, there are laws, they have to be arrested. The only reason why people have the impudence and are emboldened to keep doing what they do is because nothing happens to them. The same parties protect them. When they go and commit these crimes, they hide behind the parties. Before you know, you can go through the police system, the prison, find out whether there's anybody who has been jailed in this country for vigilantism activities, especially the politically related ones. They always go scot-free. So sometimes some of these comments, I don't think it's worth our time.
Okay. Elvis, do you think the president is just paying lip service, or there's some merit to warning our young people so they are not manipulated by politicians next year?
It's an important message, but I'm also not comfortable when we always create the impression as if it's only Muslim youth or Zongo people who engage in some of these things. We know people from our own community who are not from any Zongo, are not Muslim, who are also vigilantes, who do all this, who follow politicians to go and do violence. Violence in elections is almost everywhere in every constituency in Ghana. So sometimes when the impression is
profitable to some people.
Yeah, when the people create the impression, then the impression is created like it's only people from the Zongo communities. It makes me a little uncomfortable. It's a bad thing, and whether you are from a Zongo community or not from, nobody should entertain any politician using him or her for any political violent activities. Because the politician who is asking you to do that, the child will not do that. The mother, the brother, the sister won't do that. But you go and use an innocent person who, because of poverty, because of lack of jobs, because of opportunities that the leader or the politician has failed to create for that person to make a living, will then take advantage of the person's frailties and use the person for such violent activities. It is time, and nobody should allow any politician to do that. Any politician comes to you that, let's go or go and do this, or tell him that you go and take the son or the daughter or the brother or the sister to go and do it. Because if they are the ones who actually are the actual beneficiaries from that politician, if the politician gets money, it is his family, friends, brothers, children, wife, husband. They are the ones who chop the money, not the poor person who has nothing. They go and give the person 50 Ghana, 100 Ghana, something, and then you want that person to go and do something that will lead. So the people should begin to understand that the politician will tell you that let's go or go and do this on my behalf. He doesn't care about you. When he gets the bigger money, it is his wife, it is his children, it is his husband, it is his mother, father, siblings who will be enjoying the money. He will just use you and dump you. So nobody should allow that to be done. But the bottom line is different. When you wake up in the morning and you have a work to go to, you will not be available for anybody to even come and tell you that go and do this violence on my behalf. So the bottom line is creating opportunities for these young people to have a place they can go to on daily basis to earn a living. Oh, and I wake up in the morning, I am on my way to my office to go and work so that at the end of the month, my boss will give me my salary for me to be able to earn a living. How can anybody come to me to tell me that go and do this on my behalf because I want to win elections? I don't have time for that. So we should also, as politicians, as politicians making these calls, we should also be focused on creating the kind of opportunities that will keep young people busy, so that they will not be available for these politicians to come and use it, because the politicians only take advantage of the fact that the guy is hungry. If I give him 100 Ghana, he will do it.
Thank you very much. I want you both to take a bite on this. Tomorrow is the district assembly elections, and there's a group called the Chamber for Local Governance. They are asking the EC to postpone the election over new biometric register. We know that some people in the minority have issues with this whole new biometric register. So, Ebenezer, your thoughts on this group asking the EC to postpone tomorrow's elections over the new biometric register?
I mean, that call is an overkill. The election is tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, and
there's
the call
nothing
cannot do anything
about
unless you have gone to court and you have secured any action.
But what are your thoughts on this whole back and forth over the new biometric?
Personally, I have an issue with our voter register and the back and forth with always trying to change things. It should look this way. It's a problem. And it's also created a lot of mistrust for the political system that often sometimes when they are in power, they want to do certain things to their advantage and all that. But at the end of the day, we all want a credible register. If we are going to go that way and it will be credible, so be it. I mean, that's what we are looking for. We are only praying that somebody will not, as suggested, want to manipulate the system to their advantage. That's all. But we need a credible register. As for that, it's necessary.
Okay.
You see,
Elvis.
in this country, we like wasting money. And that is all that we do.
We can't afford it. We're a developing country.
But that's what we do. We waste money all the time.
Okay.
Do you know why we are talking about a new register?
Why?
The Electoral Commission says the one that exists with whatever TL, whatever company, they have terminated their contract with them because the cost of maintaining the system by that company is too expensive. So they have terminated that contract. So once you have terminated the contract, I mean you can't use their system anymore. So it means by the end of this year, their contract with XTL should have ended. So they said they are going for a new system. That is going to cost us no less than $30 million. That's what the Electoral Commission they are going to buy. And they claim that maintenance and everything of that one is far cheaper, even including the cost of buying it, compared to using STL. So they claim that they are saving us some money. But the question is, when we're buying STL, did we do all this? But we paid money, we are throwing it away. And once you are not going to use that system, it means that the register you have, if it's biometric, you can't use it. So it means that you have to collect new data based on the new system you are buying. But you know why it's a waste of money?
Why?
Total waste of money, because, you see, we are doing a national identification registration. Okay? If you have a credible roll call of your citizens' database, you can create your voter register from there. Because if you link your birth and death registration to it, at any point in time with the click of a button, every Ghanaian that's beyond 18 years and above, you have the data. And you have their fingerprint, you have their picture, you have their iris. All the data protocols you need to create a register is already there. So why don't we rather add that $30 million to the electoral NIA, which is struggling for funds and is battling to do this work? You see, if we do certain things, it saves us huge money. $30 million, you could have given that money in addition to the NIA, and this will be done. And you can extract a voters register from NIA database when it is done properly, instead of wasting this money. So you see, this country will love wasting money. And do you know how many institutions have collected electronic database in this country? NHIS has electronic database. Senate has electronic database. DVLA has electronic database. Almost every government institution that deals with the people has electronic database. All of them spend millions of dollars to collect it. Meanwhile, if we have a credible database of all Ghanaians under NIA, none of these institutions need to create those things. They only need a password to be able to access that database and get any information they want, to be able to create their own database and can cross-check anytime they want. But because we failed from 2007 up to today, we are so struggling to register Ghanaians for biometric. So you see, $30 million could be doing a road in my village. But we are going to use to collect another biometric database when we paid some in 2012 to collect it. So you see, it tells you that the Electoral Commission has no proper plan. As we talked about, if there were proper plans in place, by now, Electoral Commission will not be collecting data. So you see the waste of money. Though this country is wasting money multiple things. The same thing we are doing in multiple.
Thank you very much, Elvis Darko. I thank you so much for that point. It's really important. Of course, Elvis is the editor of The Finder. It's always an honor to have you with us every Monday.
Thank you.
And Ebenezer Afanye Dadzie, thank you so much for being with us. He's head of business news here at Citi TV and Citi FM. And thank you for staying with us for the news review. Hi there. We hope you enjoyed the show.
Make sure to subscribe, Like, comment, and share with your friends.
This is Breakfast Daily on Citi TV.
Join the Breakfast Daily team Monday through Fridays from 7:30 a.m. to 10. Join us for breakfast daily, only on Citi TV.